Hey guys, thanks for tuning in again, Wichita area real estate experts. We're doing a podcast today with Jason Hancock. He's a home inspector with Pillar to Post. So Jason, thanks for joining us today. Have
Thank
you
you
been
for
out in
having
the
me,
wind all
Lesley.
day? Absolutely.
How is
So
everyone today?
doing good. We've been blowing around from house to house all afternoon.
Yeah. You didn't put no rocks in your pockets?
Nope. I've been eating enough during this coronavirus. I didn't need any extra rocks. So with the home inspection, I know I've been doing this for a long time, so I understand how important this is. But when you are out taking a look at houses, I mean, how important do you feel like it is? I mean, what do your clients save by having you come out and taking a look at houses for them before they finalize their purchase?
Anything that could go wrong with the home, I inspect it from the roof down to the foundation. Examples of that would be recently I've inspected a home that had irrigation problems, where what I believed was a fencing company that come in and put a new fence in, and when they dug the hole for the post, ripped out the irrigation wiring. So that's possibly thousands of dollars right there to fix that just saved my client, as stated in my report. So they are currently working on getting that repaired.
Wow. Yeah, that wouldn't be good to find out. I mean, and we're at that time frame where you can start inspecting the
Sprinkler
sprinkler
systems.
systems. Yeah.
Yep.
So aside from sprinkler systems, let's start at like the front. Like when you go in and you start your home inspection, what's the first thing you do?
As I'm walking up to the house, first thing I do is look at the driveways, walkways, the grading around the place, and I work my way up from there, looking at the siding, what type it is, what kind of shape it's in, looking at trim, windows for any rot or damage or deterioration, and then the roofing system. Of course, the roofing system, you have flashings, the roofing material itself, chimneys. All that needs to be looked at to make sure that it is not deteriorated to the point where it's going to cost the client to repair as soon as they move in. That's one of the reasons why home inspection is very important. From there, I go to the inside, testing appliances, including the AC and the furnace, hot water tanks, testing plumbing systems, making sure there's no leaks, making sure there's no leaks in any of the plumbing systems, whether it's a supply line or a drain line.
Or just a pesky dishwasher that wanted to leak down into our breaker box a couple weeks ago.
That is correct. It took us a couple hours to find, but we found it. Yep.
Couldn't figure that one out. Had the electrician out. We're phoning a friend, and finally,
Exactly.
we figure it out.
We used all lifelines on that one.
So when you're inspecting, let's say like a basement, because I know this is a hot button, especially during the springtime. We've got a lot of rain and things like that, and people are always concerned, does it leak? And I know that we've put a couple of them under contract this week that they didn't have a seller's disclosure. So we're kind of going in blind because these people didn't have them where they occupied the house. One was selling for some parents and one was like a rental property. So when you're inspecting a basement, what are some of the things that you look at, even though it's already finished, to kind of give you some peace of mind of what condition it's in?
That's kind of difficult because if the basement is finished, I mean, you can't see the foundation at all. Usually in a mechanical room or the room where the furnace and hot water tanks are located, you can see sections of the foundation walls that will give you an indication or an idea of what kind of shape the rest of the foundation is. A lot of times on the outside below the wall surface, the basement wall is visible anywhere from 3 to 6 inches. I look at that to make sure there's no cracking, especially around in the corner areas.
Where all those downspouts come out.
Yes, which I hit hard on water issues. I know last year we had a lot of rain, a lot of basements that had been dry for 30 years were getting water in them. And I think a lot of it would have been eliminated if they had gotten the water and grading around the house where the water would get away from the home.
We see that as one of the biggest issues
Mm-hmm.
With basements is definitely grading. So
Yes.
one of the other tools that you've shown me during home inspections I think is pretty cool is like your moisture sensor,
Mm-hmm.
and how it will pick up and detect moisture in the walls.
Sure. Yep.
I know you were showing me where even just placing it on your hand, it'll set it off just because of
Yep.
the moisture that's in our skin.
Yep.
So pretty neat technology.
I use that a lot on the ceilings to make sure that there is no leakage, even from the AC distribution system. When it's running in the summer, especially if it's not insulated, it can condense moisture around it and will drip on the ceiling sometimes. And you'll see like a quarter size ring yellow stain on the ceiling. A lot of times that's what that could be from. Not necessarily a leak in the plumbing, but just dripping from the condensation of the distribution system from the AC central system.
That's good to know. I didn't know that. I've never seen that. Or maybe I just didn't know what I was seeing.
Yeah.
So another test that you've performed for a lot of our clients is radon testing. So when you're setting that machine up, how long does it run? What all goes into that?
It's a machine that detects radon in the air. It's a 48-hour test minimum. The ones I test, and the house really should stay closed up to get a true reading. The house is supposed to stay closed up, windows, doors. Nobody's really supposed to come in and out. Of course, reality of that is people are still moving, living, working, moving around. So doors do get open and closed, which can possibly, skew the numbers a little bit. Anything above a 4.0 number rating is considered dangerous and should be mitigated.
Okay. So when they go in and do a mitigation, I mean, what do they typically do for that?
Normally, the ones I see, they put in a PVC pipe, plastic pipe, down into the sump pump hole, seal that hole up, and then they run a fan up. Sometimes it's located in the attic, sometimes it's in the basement, even sometimes on the outside of the home, depends on where they can get the pipe out. And then basically all that's doing is sucking the air out of the sump pump hole, which sucks the air out from underneath the foundation or the basement and gets it out of the house before it collects in the basement area, living area.
So I know that's one of those inspections that our clients kind of go back and forth on. It's like, do I spend the extra money and have it done? How important is it? I mean, I don't know, even my personal opinion is I go back and forth on it. And so from day to day, I mean, can the numbers change on when those readings come in?
Oh yes, from house to house, day to day. I can test a home today and it be a 0.5 reading overall average. And a week from now, it may go above 4. And then the next day it may go back down. I can test the house today and it be having 4.0 above it, but the house next to it might test out at a 0.5 way below 4.0. Radon is just a day-to-day deal. You can't determine it 100% what it's going to be at any given time.
So what percentage of your inspections do you have that included where they've actually paid the extra money to have that inspected?
I'm going to say a little over 50% choose to test for it. It is.
So as far as some like additional things, since we're talking about radon, what other additional upgrades or extra inspections did people add on? I know like we've had sewer scopes done.
Termite. I offer mold testing and allergen testing, so I can test the quality of your air. Part of my home healthy package includes taking a sample or vacuuming a sample from the carpet that's in the home, and I can send that in and tell you what kind of possible allergens might be in the home prior to you moving in. A lot of people have allergy issues and want to know where that level is at. So, pet hair, dander, molds, whatever might be in the carpet that normally you can't see or smell unless you have allergies that can create problems for you. So I can do that, send it in and let them know exactly pretty much what kind of living the people that are in there currently live as far as cleanliness and allergens.
I'm glad you're not inspecting any of our carpet. They're like, all right, you got 2 cats and you don't like to vacuum and
Yeah. Well, and that's why, you know, I like hardwood flooring, you know, pretty much any kind. I know a lot of people don't like it because they're a pain in the butt to keep clean, but they do, once you do clean them, you know, the dirt and allergens are out of the home.
Yeah, that's one of the things. I mean, when we remodeled our house a couple years ago, the only carpet I actually have left in my house is newer, and it goes just on the stairs down into our basement because everything else is hardwood and tile, because I've yanked up enough pieces of carpet to know what pops out of them, what flies when you're trying to carry them outside. So yeah, if you have allergies, carpet is probably not the way to go anyway.
No, I wouldn't advise it.
No. So what are some of the other things, you know, like, what are things that pop up in your inspection that are pretty common, like on every single inspection?
Oh, every single one.
The one that I think of that shows up on almost every single one, and I always find it interesting, is there's no tipping bracket on the stove. It's like they come with the stove, and people don't install it on the wall and then mount, you know,
Right.
hook the stove onto it so that it has that tipping possibility.
Same with dishwashers. I've inspected a few where you try to open the door and the whole unit comes out with it. Yeah.
What's the craziest thing you've ever seen at a home inspection?
Craziest? Probably evidence of a raccoon in the attic. Droppings, little nest, little home going on. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. They actually tore up the roof getting in around the fireplace.
Well, at least you didn't see them while you were up there.
No, and that was a new roof they had just put on there, so they weren't very happy that the critter had come along and damaged the new roof.
We had raccoons in our attic growing up one time and had to trap them and get them out. So, and they're noisy when they're up there. I mean, they're really noisy.
Which is one reason why it's important that your eave covers are covered and sealed to keep pests out like that, including squirrels. I've even seen them where they had rotted away, and you get a wasp nest or a bee's nest there, and those ain't really fun to have around either. Yeah.
I know something I saw the other day, and I don't see it very often, but maybe you see it more often than me, is woodpecker damage.
Oh, yeah?
I saw it.
I haven't seen any of that.
And it was like these holes. I mean, they're like this big, like up the chimney chase in the wood on the side, like in the cedar trim around the. So yeah, that was a new one that I hadn't seen. So I didn't know if you had seen any of those.
No, I haven't seen any of those. At least not yet.
Yeah. So when you go through and you're checking for like plumbing leaks, how long would you say that you usually like run the water, things like that?
Anyway, about 10 minutes probably. Usually I'll use the sink drain plug mechanism, run a sink full of water, and then release it. And that usually tells me whether there's a leak or not. Usually I find the leak at the little area where the sink drain plug mechanism goes up and down, because people don't use those that often. And once I mess with it, that's usually what causes the leak. But that's my job. So, you know, the first time they go in there and I don't report it and it starts leaking, guess who's going to get a phone call? So
that one's all your fault.
It's all my fault. Yeah.
It's got to be somebody's fault.
Well, the people that live in there need to use it more often.
We've had that happen. We sold one in Andover that they never used the tub in the hall bathroom because they used their master bathroom, and then the kids were in the basement, and so they always used the basement tub.
Right.
And so when we had a home inspection, and I think just the seal around the drain, you know, like the plumber's putty or whatever, had dried up, and it was leaking into their basement.
Yep.
Yeah, it's such a huge thing. I mean, I know people cringe when they see the price or when they ask us, how much does it cost for a home inspection? But it's one of those things that you definitely get what you pay for.
Exactly.
It's it's crazy to see all of the stuff, you know, and when David and I are even out showing houses, we try to pick out the bigger things, but we're not up in the attic and we're not checking every single plug in like you do, or running all the water or things like that.
Or in the crawl space.
Amen. I'm not doing crawl spaces.
Gotta love them.
I don't bring coveralls when we're showing houses. Hazmat suits, but not coveralls.
I carry a pair with me.
You'd have to. Yeah, you'd have to. We were the one that you inspected for us in Augusta the other day, and you were in the crawl space and you found they had like hand dug what was it? Like a sump pump pit, and they ran the garden hose from one into a different. People, I mean, have tried to fix things for a long time. Now I think with YouTube they try to fix even more probably than maybe it's better. That there's at least they're getting some advice instead of trying to weaken.
You know, it's funny because I was talking to one of my clients, I think it was last week, and he's not really a DIY, but what he does do, he learns from YouTube. He told me that. He says, I'll figure it out. I'll YouTube it. Okay, be careful with that. That's all I got to say. Be careful with that.
Well, and that's the nice thing is when people are buying a house, they don't know who fixed
what. Right.
What. And so when you can come in and you can find those things, then I guess whoever's buying it can decide if they want to fix it by watching YouTube or if they want to ask the sellers to fix it.
He said he YouTubed how to change his brakes on the front of his truck. That kind of tells you how far people go.
Well, but I tell you, I mean, David was changing the brakes on our car the other day, and it's not because he hasn't changed brakes before, but he said that there was something specific that he was looking for on it. So I don't know. It's a good starting point, but it doesn't take the place of a professional opinion.
The only thing I can say is don't use common sense and don't take on more than you can chew. There's certain jobs that you probably should just call somebody in to do.
Well, and I see that, you know, even on the home inspections, it's like yours is kind of like, or anybody's, it's like a level 1 type inspection. And so when we get that report from you and it's like, you know, this is my thoughts on the roof, have somebody come out that is a roofing professional and look at this, or have somebody come out and look at whatever the other maybe. Yeah, usually like fireplaces for chimneys and things like that are more of a
actually those are common up there to get neglected because they're on the roof. Nobody wants to get up there and do any painting or sealing or maintenance to the chimney or chimney cap.
Well, it's out of sight and out of mind. I mean, I tell people that grading is that same way, you know, around the house. It's like they don't ever think about it. They see it, but they still don't think about it until their basement's wet.
Right.
And then it's like, oh man, it's wet right there in that corner because we moved that splash block when we were weed eating and we never put it back. Or, I mean, they don't think about it until it's an issue. So
same with the sump pump drain. Get that line out away from the home. I see quite a few that are just exiting 3 inches past the wall surface of the home, and it's dumping the water out of the sump pump hole right next to the foundation.
We were at a brand new listing today on Beacon Hills, and it's like this much gap between the patio and the ground because the sump pump line is going right down the side of the house and it's kicking it out right there against the house where basically at 45s, the patio in the house. And so it's basically eroded everything that's underneath of it. So that's huge. So let me ask you this on that note, now that I'm thinking about sump pumps, and I'll get into that in a minute, but how many new construction houses, I mean, how often do you inspect new construction houses?
Not that often. Most people buy new thinking that it's new. What do I need inspection for? But they're still pretty new on new ones. I've done a few. The last one I did, I didn't find too many issues other than some small stuff, safety stuff like handrails. This guy had ordered a walkway down one side of his home that was like 4 foot wide, and then his sump pump drain was drained out onto that, and he had no handrails. I said, well, in the winter when that pumps out water, it's going to freeze, and then you're going to go sliding down the steps instead of stepping down the steps.
Yeah.
He said, you know, I never thought of that. And I've checked homes, new ones, where they didn't have insulation. That kind of stuff needs to be checked, just especially the big stuff, you know. And that one guy had done one for, we had actually met in a Walmart one day by accident, and he said, you know, I had a leak pop up recently on my shower drain from upstairs that leaked down in the basement. Of course, he saw me test it, and I run, you know, 10, 15 minutes worth of water and saw nothing. Come to find out that it took 3 or 4 months for that putty, as you put it, plumber's putty around the drain down there of the shower. And apparently he didn't get enough or put too much, and it broke apart and it started leaking. So even new homes can have their issues. It's very important.
I've built 3 new ones, and I've had issues with every single one of them. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, even though they're new, they were built by humans. They are not perfect because they weren't built by perfect people. I've had my sump pump. That's what made me think about it. I had my sump pump shoot out of the side of the house directly into my air conditioning unit.
I've seen dryer venting do that too.
Well, see, and that would have been, I mean, that would be harder to fix than the sump pump. You know, you can just put the elbow and run it further away from the house. But how would you fix the dryer vent?
Well, it depends on where it's located. I mean, you'd have to relocate it, you know, drill you another hole in the home next to it. Or I guess if it comes to worst case, you could run a line from that exit and just point it a different direction. I know when I first started this business and went into training, I did some ride-alongs with some of my fellow Pillar to Post guys down in Oklahoma, and it was actually code that the dryer venting be at least or a minimum of 10 foot away from the air conditioner, and they weren't building that away brand new, 3 foot from it. And the code was minimum 10 foot. So that tells you right there that even though it's brand new, you still got things to be looking at.
Yeah, because it would just fill your air conditioner up with lint.
Exactly, which will cause it stress and possibly shorten the life of it.
Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff, even on the new construction ones that that are missed. I mean, and it's not intentional. It's not like they were trying to shortchange, but there's just so many people that are in and out, and a lot of the new home builders, they have one crew that comes out and does one thing, and then they get paid and they go on to the next job, and nobody communicates back and forth.
Right. Well, and even the plumbing, like underneath the sinks on new builds, I mean, you know, a contractor will go in there, put it together, doesn't even turn the water on to test it, and walks away, says it's done. Well, when I come in, maybe it wasn't tightened quite enough or something not in a position perfectly right, and it can still leak brand spanking new. I mean, I've sent one guy back. It wasn't a brand new home, but 3 times he had to go back to get it to stop leaking. I went to that house 3 times.
Wow.
I don't know why they didn't run water to test it before they left.
Well, because that would have been too easy.
Right.
So one of the things that I really like about your home inspection is the booklet of information that you give everybody. So kind of go through what all's included in your folder that you give out, your binder.
So there is at the front of it a code of excellence by which I inspect, which are the ASHI standards. There's a copy of them in the binder. And then next would be the home inspection report, which also, by the way, includes photos. My average report for me is about 30 pages. That includes the photos. And then after that, you get a maintenance inspection checklist for your home. Just like I tell my clients, you get one. So if you want to use it for multiple years, you need to make copies of it. Or as one of my clients told me the other day, they was going to laminate it and get a dry erase marker. That way they could just continue to use it. And then after that, there is a home systems record keeping. So you got your home purchase records all the way to your heating and cooling costs. And those do have a folder in them to keep papers or receipts. And then on the very back of that is a average cost guide of what it would take like to replace the roof or a hot water tank. And then a lifespan of those components of the home.
And those, I mean, it's just really nice. And especially like all of the upkeep of things, like when we come back out and relist the house, when they have binders like that and it says how old the heat and air units are and how old the water heater, it just makes it so much easier for people to fill out their seller's disclosure years from when they've purchased it. But
Right.
it's just nice to have all that information.
Especially
And
for first-time home buyers.
for sure. You know, and I was talking to, I did a podcast with Tracy Pryor with Choice Home Warranty, and you and I had this conversation too. It's like, that's the kind of information that you can use to argue, you know, if you needed to, that they're not willing to cover something, maybe it was pre-existing, and now when they've already had you out to inspect the house and there wasn't any issue when you did their home inspection when they were buying it, then that's what gets them their repairs
Approval.
made by their home. Yeah. So I mean, if you notated that the furnace wasn't working and then they call it in, I mean, they're not going to just fix it. So it's nice when we have your full report with photos and everything that's that way, to pass it along, even for home warranties. So it's really important what the inspections look like and how detailed they are with those photos, even for future things that they might not even be thinking about at the time, but they pop up later.
Sure.
So, well, I know David and I really appreciate all of your help. And we love the partnership that we've created with you, because you're so wonderful for all of our clients to work with and for us. So I want to thank you for that. And I definitely, you know, anytime somebody's buying a house with us or anytime we talk to any other agents, we recommend you. So if other agents or people that are watching this that aren't buying a house with us, even though they should have, if they want to reach out to you,
use Lesley.
Hey, we're funny if nothing else.
That's right.
If they want to reach out and schedule a home inspection with you, what's the easiest way for them to schedule that?
When my busy season, it's best just to call my office, 316-570-1444. They'll book it, get your pricing set up, whatever the size home you have, and go from there. And then all my documents I use DocuSign anyway, so my visual inspection agreement will be sent to them through their email, which is a requirement of some of the information I'm going to require to have. They'll sign electronically, it kicks back to me, and then we are done. And I'll see all the services that they picked, and I will get them started, whether it's a radon or termite. I'll get that all scheduled and get it going as soon as I can. So
right now, let's just say that somebody put a house under contract today. How far out are you usually booked?
I usually can get to them within a week right now.
That's good. Yeah. Well, we're very happy with all your inspections. I've yet to have any of our clients complain with any of the results, which to me, that's a win-win, because I don't want to hear them complain. So I do if it's not up to snuff, because I want to know, so I'm not referring people in the future. But we've always had very good feedback after your inspections. And one of our clients the other day said that he used you, and then he saw the report on his house from another inspector, and he felt like your report was so much more thorough, and he was very glad that you didn't inspect his house.
I'm glad to hear that. And whoever it was, thank you.
Yeah, there you go, Caden. Shout out.
Thank you, Caden.
Right. Well, thank you for spending some time with us. And if anybody has any questions, I mean, Jason's on Facebook all the time too. I know, I didn't even know you had an office. I always just message you on Facebook when I want to schedule stuff. So there you have it. So follow him on Facebook or follow us on Facebook, and we'll get you in touch with Jason if you can't remember who it was that we recommended.
Pillar to post, Jason Hancock.
There you go. All right. Well, thanks again, Jason. Have a good evening, and we will see you soon at the next inspection.
Okay. Thank you, Lesley, and have a good evening.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.